Hey everybody, it's Mr. Wagstaff. Cool stuff to talk about today. So today we're actually finishing our lessons here in economic and personal finance. We're on unit 8. This is lesson 5. Today we're going to start talking about strategies that you need to implement to help protect yourself from fraud and fraudulent solicitations. Let's go ahead and get started. So yesterday we talked about fraud that is associated with unsolicited calls. Nobody likes unsolicited calls, and they can oftentimes lead to unsolicited offers and things like that. So what I want to talk about here is one of the easiest and most legitimate, the reason I use legitimate, not that it would be illegitimate, I'll explain that in a second. The easiest and most legitimate way to basically cut out a lot of the calls that you're going to get on your phone from unknown numbers is to sign up for something called the National Do Not Call Registry. This, if you sign up for this, companies won't just cold call you and try to sell you stuff and kind of pressure you into a decision that you don't want to. This is a responsible thing to do as a consumer. The reason I use the term legitimate is because if it's a scam and they're trying to pretend to be the police or something and have you want to go to Walmart and buy them Apple Music cards to send them the numbers or something weird like that, those people are not legitimate to begin with. They're functioning in an illegal capacity, so they're not going to follow this do not call registry. Legitimate companies will follow this registry. The reason it's good to sign up for the do not call registry is now you know if somebody calls you that is trying to get you to do something, you know it's not a reputable company. Because you should always be aware of unsolicited offers, meaning offers that you haven't been actively seeking out. If people are approaching you not only on the phone but in the streets like, hey, got a deal for you, you should just usually walk away from those. The reason is because if you wanted to know about this, you would have sought it out. If it's something that you needed, you would have already looked for these offers. Unsolicited offers typically are done by companies who can't get their offers out there in other means. Maybe they're a little shady, maybe they're questionable practices. Generally speaking, if it's an unsolicited offer, you should probably not encourage that behavior. That kind of includes door-to-door salesmen in the modern day. So generally speaking, unsolicited offers usually aren't necessarily what you're looking for. They're not usually beneficial, and if it was something that you had actually already needed, you would have already searched out those offers yourself. So, and that's what brings us to the question, why should you be wary of unsolicited offers? So, pause me, answer that completely. We're moving on. All right, so let's talk about other ways to protect yourself from any type of fraud or scam. When you're going to buy something or interact heavily with a business or investment firm or anything like that, the first thing you should do is check the business's reputation. All right. So if the business has a good reputation, they're probably pretty good to work for, or work with, or buy their product or something like that, especially if it's a company that you're not really familiar with. There's a handful of ways to be able to do this. You need to first check the customer reviews. Check the reviews on these specific companies that you may be buying something from. This is from Amazon. This is the easiest way. I think a lot of us do it. We check out the customer reviews. Now keep in mind, 4.8 out of 5, and you're like, oh, look at this 4.3, like somebody's unhappy with this. Understand that when we check for reviews, we constantly want to see 5-star reviews. For that reason, as a good consumer, if you're happy with a product that you receive, give it 5 stars. Don't be, if you have an issue with it, then you start taking stars off. Don't be that person that says, I give 4 stars. They have to really work for my 5 stars. Okay, that might be interesting to you, but I bet when you go buy something, you're expecting all 5 stars. So don't have a different criteria for giving out stars as opposed to what you expect when you're looking to buy a product. Anywho, so if a company has a high reputation, that's a pretty good indicator that you should go work with them or buy their product. If they're all 1 stars, that's also a telltale sign that, hey, this company might not be what I'm looking for. And just because it has 1-star reviews, you might want to go click on those. Sometimes it's a legitimate product and they're like, oh, this is 1 star because I needed this part for my car and it gets 1 star because it didn't fit in my car. But they didn't even have the right car for the part, you know? So it might not be a product problem. It could be a consumer inability to understand what they need. Here's another really good way to tell if a company is a reputable company or not. The Better Business Bureau, which any legitimate business is ranked on the Better Business Bureau, and they go through and it's kind of a formal way of reviewing and how effective they are. Do they have any complaints against them? So the Better Business Bureau, which is a free thing, you can go online and look up any business and see how they're rated. This is really good for companies that don't necessarily sell products, but they are, you know, like say a landscaping service, all right? If there's an accredited business, an official business, and you're like, I don't know anybody else that uses this landscape service, like how do I find out? They don't have reviews on their websites. You can go to the Better Business Bureau and see what the rating is. If they have a good rating, it means that they're doing all the stuff that they need to do. If they have a bad rating, it's probably because people were complaining about them not living up to the expectations of them. So the Better Business Bureau is a very effective way of understanding the effectiveness of a legitimate business. Another way of checking a business is on social media, like Twitter, Instagram, Google, Facebook. You can go here and you can really look up reviews and other people's interaction with this based on the stuff that they have tagged in their post to see if it's good or not. Because as we get further on into the future, the use of bots in order to fakely increase these reviews is getting more common. But if you go to social media and you find actual people who have their real experience, you get clear-cut examples of that. Also going to YouTube and looking up these products on YouTube and seeing like unboxing stuff, you see exactly what you'll be getting at that point. But all of that is for the reputation of the company. If the company's reputation isn't good, it doesn't really matter what product you're selling, there's going to be a good possibility that you're going to be unhappy with it. So the question here is, why is it important to check the reputation of a company? And a big problem, if a company if a company's offering you something that is too good to be true, you want to check their Better Business Bureau, because if they have a history of fraudulent behavior, all right, and it's got like no stars on Better Business Bureau, I'm trying to think how it's rated on Better Business Bureau. I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, if it's a low rating on Better Business Bureau, there's a good chance it has some fraudulent behavior. And it'll explain to you why they have a low rating on Better Business Bureau. And by checking a company's reputation, you can avoid those companies that have a history of fraudulent behavior. You don't want to deal with those companies. All right, so here's another one. Online safety. This helps prevent you from getting scammed. Really, really important. You got to protect your personal information while you're online. Not protecting your personal information while you're online leads to identity theft, which is a whole slew of issues that you just want to generally avoid in its entirety. So here are some ways that you can protect your information while you're online. The first is every website that you go to, all right? Especially if it's a website that you're going to have to enter in your credit card information. In the top left corner of the URL, there's all these little dots and dashes and all that. It needs to start with HTTPS. It needs to have that S after HTTP. That S means secure, super important, all right? HTTP just means it's a regular website that you can have access to. And going to that website is fine if you're just bumping around, but if you're going to enter any information, username, password, or anything like that, don't ever do that on a website that doesn't have an S at the very start of the URL. It needs to be HTTPS, which means it has security protocols to keep people from being able to take the information that you put into that website. But if you're just going to a website to look up how, a recipe or something like that, and it doesn't have an S, you're fine. As long as it's not asking you to sign in or give any information, you should be fine there. Maybe famous last words. HTTPS is always better than not being secure. Here's another one, and honestly, at y'all's age, in the world we've grown up in, you've probably heard this ad nauseum, but man, it is important. Use strong passwords. So as it used to just be have a password, cool, and then people were like, oh, password 123, and people would guess it. Now there's algorithms, all right? So algorithms and these websites that can try to guess people's passwords. So now you need to make the passwords more complicated. It's kind of gotten to almost to the point of diminishing returns, and I'm interested to see what the next step will be. Honestly, the two-factor identification is probably one of the most effective next steps, because people get these really complicated passwords and you get comfortable with them, and then people use the same passwords for like all these different websites, which it's complicated that website. What ends up happening though, all it takes is for one of those passwords to get hacked by somebody else, and then they have access to all of your stuff. So use strong passwords, use different passwords on different sites, keep it organized on what your passwords are. This is a difficult thing. It's usually not super fun, but it is very necessary to keep your information safe and out of the hands of the people that might want to get it. And it's all about developing good habits right now. At your age, you might be like, I got $71 in the bank, if that. Or it's like, I don't have a bank account. And you're like, I don't need to do this. Nobody's going to steal my stuff. But if you get in the habit of doing something now at 17, 18, 19 years old, and then you're 27, 28, you're used to those same habits, bad things can happen then when you have more than $71 in your bank. Here's another one. So use strong passwords. Another one, avoid phishing scams. Talked about this yesterday. So the way you're protecting yourself from this is avoid this. So this is from MIT. This is to their website, and it literally says, hey, person whose email I'm sending this to, your password is expired. Click here to redo it. If you just hover over the actual link they want you to click, it'll usually show you what it is, and it is a completely fake website, all right? Be very careful. Anybody that's telling you that you need to renew your password, be very, very careful with that, because the moment you put in your password into this, because if you click on that, it's going to sure look like, what is it, Outlook? It's sure going to look like that, all right? And you're going to enter it in and nothing's going to happen. But what they do is they now have your username and your password, and they have access to all the stuff. Like in this case, these people go to MIT, that they have access to all their stuff, probably financial stuff, because they have, they pay stuff there, so they have access to their credit cards and all types of stuff. This is number one thing is trust nothing. If you get an email that wants you to put in a password, don't trust it. There's going to be situations that may happen, but companies realize how common phishing scams are, and they really try to make sure that you know their thing is official. And that, again, make sure it's the right website and avoid the phishing scams. They're asking for your password ever, Spidey sense should go off. The next one, and this seems common sense, but it's really not as common sense as you think it would be. Monitor your accounts. Check your bank account. Check your bank, your finances. Make your credit card statements. Check these and make sure that you're not having extra fees. Somebody's got your identity. If you catch these things early, they're usually always remedied. Banks know fraud happens, and they got your back. There's usually insurance and stuff involved. But if you don't catch it for 3 months because you weren't really paying attention, that money's probably gone, and they're not going to give it back to you. So monitor your accounts. All right, so the question is, give some examples of how to protect your personal information. So pause me, answer that completely. We're moving on. All right, next one, you got to keep your computer protected. What? So because so much stuff happens now online as opposed to in person like it used to be, the world has changed. So you need a software update. Constantly update your software on your computer. Keep your software up to date. By doing so like when your software on the computer updates, that has a whole new security measure that people that are trying to hack into your computer have to learn. And by the time they finally get close to figuring it out, the software companies, and this is their entire job, like Microsoft and them and Microsoft Windows, it's time for another update. And by constantly updating, it makes it nearly impossible for people to hack into your computer. If you have an old version of software, it makes it much easier to hack into because they figured out how to do it on the older version. So make sure your software is up to date. One of the best things that you should do for this is on your computer, and I grabbed a random screenshot here, that you want to set automatic updates to set for your computer. So it usually happens in the middle of the night. It'll ask you, hey, like you'll turn on, hey, you have an update. Do you want to restart now or you want to do it later? Doesn't matter. As long as you do it within like 24 hours, you should be safe. The software companies constantly are putting out new software in order to prevent you from having somebody hack into you. That is like, software is like number one job nowadays, is to constantly have updates to prevent people from hacking into you. Another example, another way to protect yourself, only shop through trusted sources. Meaning that if you're going to Amazon, Walmart.com, Target.com, those are trusted sources. All right, you're going to see the HTTPS, like they are, as focused as possible. Even though yesterday we talked about, information disclosure, or 2 days ago, information disclosure talked about Target getting hacked. These things happen to anybody. All right, so it's like you can only be so safe. But like after that happens, Target, to rebuild their brand, is probably a pretty secure place to to buy from. If you're just clicking on something on Facebook or Instagram and going to their individual website to buy from them, you got to be very, very careful, because that, and it's happened to me. It's happened to me and my wife. We purchased something through a third-party website, and they got our stuff and bought plane tickets. Bank took care of it for us, and it's not necessarily that third-party website is a hacker, all right? It's probably that they're a new company. They didn't have the money to invest in a super secure website. We bought something from it. They then had our credit card information. Hackers hacked into their website and got our credit card numbers from them. So trusted sources, like the bigger companies, typically are more trusted. If a company has a store, especially if it's a smaller company, it has a store and a website, go to a store and buy it. That helps them out in a variety of ways. But shopping through trusted sources is a very effective way of preventing people from getting your information. Another thing that you should do to prevent people from having access to your computer, because you can be as safe as possible and crazy things happen, all right? So you need some type of anti-malware stuff on your computer. Malware is like viruses. Anything that's bad. It could be like Trojan horses, it could be viruses, it could be all types of stuff. Malware is kind of the catch-all term for bad stuff on your computer. Run anti-malware software. A lot of Windows has ones that are built in. You can do like McAfee and things like this. There's ones that are paid. And run it often and scan your computer for anything that's on your computer that's not supposed to be there. And these services are very, very advanced at catching those. So the question is, what should you do to protect your computer or mobile device from malware? So pause me, answer that completely. We're moving on. All right, and the final thing we're going to talk about here, don't be pressured into a decision. I like this quote here, don't let anyone pressure you into making a decision too quickly. That's straightforward. This is a telltale sign of salesmen. Buy now, buy. Like you're like, I might be interested in this. Like, we'll do it right now. Gotta do it right now. Gotta do it right now. That pressure tends to make you rush through your decision-making process faster and not think of it from all perspectives. And by being pressured into it, sometimes you make a decision that you will regret. So take time when making a decision. Whoever's trying to sell you something doesn't want you to take your time, because they want you to just go ahead and buy. You are the one with the money. You have all the power. Before you buy something, take your time and make a decision. All right? Especially if it's a big deal like a house or a car. House is kind of set up so you have to take your time. But like a car dealerships, with that, man, they want you to do it right now. Take your time. One of the things that you should do, and this is a two-pronged benefit, is take a highlighter and highlight important parts of a contract you're about to sign. Whether this is a job, whether this is buying a car, anything like this, this does a couple things. Number one, it forces you to read through all aspects of it, and then you're highlighting what's important so you can go back and glance over at the most important parts. Number two, it forces you to slow down. So you're taking your time when making a decision, all right? This also lets the other people know that you're not going to be pushed around real easily, that you're going to take your time and you're going to make an informed decision. So highlight it and take your time. And then ask for help. If it's a big decision, ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. You probably have a family member, somebody that's been through a similar situation. Ask for help, especially as you're young. All right. I know when you're young, you want to do things on your own and not ask for help. When it comes time to make a decision, especially if it's a payment situation or something like that, or something that seems to be too good to be true, ask for help from somebody that you trust. Preferably somebody who has been through it. Maybe somebody's a little older, a little bit more experienced, and ask for help at that point, because a lot of times people who give the best advice know not to give advice unless they're asked for it. So there might be a lot of people who have really, really, really good advice for you that would never give it unless you ask them for it. So if you're having an issue or struggling to come up to make a decision, ask for help. None of us have it all figured out. Sure, I'm teaching here. I guarantee you a lot of things in this course I've been guilty of not doing perfectly myself, quite a bit. So we're all capable of making mistakes. We all do. So if you're not completely sure of something, ask for help. So the question here is, why should you do what someone pressures you to make a decision, a quick decision, or pay immediately? Now, if it's like you're buying a car and you went there, it doesn't mean walk away. Not like an unsolicited advice. Don't let them pressure you to do it. So they're going to try to pressure you. Take your time. Think it through. Go through all your options, all right? Don't fall into their trap of just doing it really fast because they want to. So pause me, answer that completely. And that's the end of economic and personal finance. See you on the next course.